how does that outreach go to them? Is it a case of will your office get involved in those intakes for those specific, maybe mature students, for example? Is there a
Mhm.
different sort of approach to outreach than, you mentioned going into K-12 districts, for example, and those sort of fairs? Do you do something similar
Yeah.
with those groups?
Yeah. So not to the extent that I wish I could. And I think that, I really do think that when we talk about underserved populations, obviously there are many more underserved populations, but when it comes specifically to non-trad adult learners, they're a huge underserved resource. Like so many of our services, not just here at my college, but in higher ed in general, are tailored to students coming straight out of high school. Like I think about career centers in general. Like at the college level, like if you go to a career center to get help with your resume or to get help with interviewing skills, there's not a ton in a career space for students who are like, I have a 40-year history. I know how to interview. I know how to do this. What else can you do for me? Right? Like there, and again, I don't know what the answer is there, but I definitely can see that those gaps exist just across student affairs as a whole. What I can say for accessibility just in general is a big thing that I do for outreach here is connect with spaces like our vocational rehabilitation services, which is a space for people who are disabled to go and get workplace support, especially if it's an acquired disability, VRS. I mean, VRS works with anyone who has a disability who is an adult. Um, but specifically, like if you have an acquired disability where you were in a car accident and then you suddenly, lost, you're paralyzed in your writing arm and you're like, wow, I'm an accountant. Like I do computers all day and I don't have one of my hand. Like, what do I do now? They can help with like that transition service. I have a ton of resources and connections there. Our career force, which is another, like specifically here in Minnesota, I can't speak for anywhere else, but specifically here in Minnesota, our career force and our voc rehab go kind of hand in hand, where our career force helps people not necessarily disability specific find work, and those are places that I do probably every other year. I do kind of like a big presentation for. Again, probably not as often as I should, but something we still try to make a point to do of just saying, hey, by the way, if you have a student who like has a dream to come to college, but they have these concerns, this is a resource that they can use, and here's what it looks like, and here's how we do this, and we give all of those counselors that information, and I give them this I'm referring again to that K through 12 versus college, because even though they are grown, right, and they're out of high school, sometimes their last experience with stuff is high school. And so even just as like a jumping off point, as a reference point, I send that with them too. Because if your last experience was high school and you're like, I don't know, I don't even know where to start with college, sometimes that comparison I have on the front where one column has the high school and one column has the college can really be supportive. But there's also in my area specifically, we have like resources like Goodwill, that is like kind of like our charity shop, thrift shop,
Yeah.
that they hire people with disabilities to kind of do the restocking and the checking out. And they have a really great process where they help they get job skills, and they kind of have like a counseling like support resource that they do too. I don't know enough about it probably, but we've collaborated with our Goodwill before to say, hey, if you have students who are planning, or you have people who work for you, or people who are a part of your program who have an interest in college, please know that like we can be that connection point for them. I think another thing that, and I'll pause here after I say this, but I think another thing that matters a lot is your recruiters. Our recruiters here are amazing, and they are so open to anything, where I can walk up to them and be like, hey guys, I have this transfer fair. Let's do this. Or hey guys, Goodwill's having an event and we need to show our face. So like we're gonna go, you're gonna come with me. You know, having recruiters who are down to support those, like again, these underserved populations, and having a recruiting office who sees the value in, people with disabilities being a part of their market, is huge. I think that we talk about like, I can't speak for every country, but I can speak specifically for ours, is like the spending power of disability, of people with disabilities, is massive. And it's a completely untapped market because people think of it as being such a burden, quote unquote. And again, I hate to put words in people's mouths, but that's kind of the vibe people bring to the party. Um, And so when we talk to our recruiters and we talk to the people at Goodwill, we talk to the voc rehab people, and we talk to the adult learning spaces for students who are getting their GEDs, right? And we pull all those spaces together and say, we want these students. These students are important. And I know that we can provide them the education and getting over some of that systemic ableism and tapping into that under supported market. Not to bring this into market research, because that's way out of my my purview, but it makes such a difference. And to feel wanted, right? As and to feel like you have a college that wants you, it makes a difference too. That's something that I had a student in here maybe 2 days ago who told me.